How's it going, you guys? So in this video I want to talk a little bit about the law of attraction. Okay, I feel like this is probably one of the greatest self-improvement hacks that anybody can really emphasize. And the main reason why I call it a self-improvement hack is simply because it's all a big hack. Now, I'm kidding. The reason why I call the law of attraction one of the greatest self-improvement hacks is because you can cut through a lot of the fluff and a lot of the stressful, efforted type of self-improvement work that a lot of the most popular books um, advocate simply by using the law of attraction. Okay, most of the greatest teachings of all time basically emphasize a law of attraction, but in different types of ways. Okay, so what is a law of attraction, first of all? Well, the law of attraction is basically, so there's many different ways of explaining it, but essentially it's the energy that you embody attracts the energy you get in life. Okay, so for example, if I feel happy, I'm most likely going to attract more happiness. If I feel angry, I'm probably going to attract more anger. Okay? How you feel attracts more of the people, places, and things that make you feel more of that emotion. And so the law of attraction is extremely misunderstood. It's misunderstood because people think that the law of attraction is, if you think about something, you'll manifest it. But that's actually not how it works at all. It's not as simple as like, I want to, focus on what you want. I want to win the lottery. Well, like, I want more money all the time, but I never get it. And that's because your feeling is desperation. Your feeling is want. Your feeling is, I don't have it. And so you attract more of the desperation. Desperate people tend to get jobs and get jobs out of desperation. And the jobs that people tend to get out of desperation tend to be jobs that they don't really want to do. It's just that they feel like that's all that they can get to make money. Because the real reason they got that job is, I feel lack. I feel like I have to do whatever it takes to get money, and like, so therefore they're going to feel more of the same desperation and anxiety. Now, keep in mind that there's a lot of different influences on this, and it's not entirely just, I feel happy, therefore I'll attract happiness. The other part of it is belief. Typically, self-fulfilling prophecies are created from your beliefs. If you expect for your girlfriend to, to be angry or to act a certain way, then you'll subconsciously create the behaviors and you'll start to take the action that actually leads to your expectation. And so you create a self-fulfilling prophecy, and of course you recognize it as expecting, like, oh, it's just the way she always is. But in reality, it's actually your expectation that tends to make that more likely to happen. So your expectations of how things will be creates confirmation bias, and things might be completely awesome, for example, but as long as you expect them to suck, you're going to continue to, all you're going to be able to see is the suckiness. You're not going to be able to see the awesomeness when you expect it to suck. So as long as you bring stress, as long as you expect stress and you're stressing over something and you're anxious about it, and you're like, oh my god, all these problems are going to happen, you make that situation more stressful, and therefore all the things you're scared of are more likely to happen. Now, a lot of times you expect something to be a lot worse than it actually is, and 9 times out of 10, what you expect, it's what you expect to happen doesn't happen. Like if you expect something to turn out bad, a lot of times it doesn't turn out as bad as you think. But it's all about resistance. When you let go of the resistance, when you let go of the expectation, when you let go of the outcome, a lot of times what you want actually comes to you without even expecting it. Like when you least expect it, sometimes. Um, so your attachment to the outcome tends to make things harder. It makes things more stressful, you know. When you expect something to suck, it's going to make you more stressed, and the more attached you are to that expectation and negativity, the worse the path will become. Sometimes, just your expectation by itself will actually create that negative outcome by itself. Sometimes things turn out better than you expected, but that's going to depend on how stressed you are about the negative outcome and how attached you are. And so, this is one principle that I think, in combination with tonic herbs and other things, helped me get over panic attacks, for example. When I was suffering from severe panic disorder for 2 years, when I started to let go of the outcome and I started to welcome the panic attack, it lost its power, and purely by letting go of the resistance, instead of resisting the panic attack, like, no, I don't want it to happen, I don't want the panic. I tried wanting the panic to see what would happen. Like, I want the panic attack to happen. I'm excited for the panic attack to happen because it'll give me an opportunity to try out these techniques. But purely by wanting it to happen, it let go. It stopped. It dead in its tracks, and I was disappointed that I never had a panic attack again. So I couldn't try out all these techniques I wanted to try out. But then I started to realize, like, whoa, that's powerful. I wonder how many other areas of my life letting go of resistance, letting go of the attachment, will heal. And so, let's just say I've had a lot of experiences over the last 5 years or so, that really brought to my attention the power of, number one, attachment, number two, resistance, and number three, what you feel. What you feel is what you attract, and what you focus on grows. That's like another one. What you focus on grows. Okay. So for example, like if you're so focused on like all the negativity in your life, all the negativity in your relationship, all the negativity in the world, that starts to grow. That starts to grow in your head, which tends to attract other problems to you. Like if you're so like attached to the craziness that's going on in the news, you'll start to like obsess about it, and then you might start to post on Facebook about it, and then you might start to irritate your friends, and you might start fights with your friends, and then lose friendships about it. You might start to take actions about the hysteria in the news that actually causes you to lose money, or causes you to hampers your health, hurts your health. There's a variety of different things that can happen, and you may not connect it back to your vibration, or your emotion, or your feeling, your vibe, but it's a chain reaction that tends to happen. When you start to see the negativity in things, like sometimes the positivity, sometimes, like, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and all you can focus on is the negative. Sometimes that other person's positive expectation and their positive feelings might be so strong that it's able to carry on the relationship without you needing to change. Or maybe your negative focus is kind of wishy-washy, and 50% of the time you focus on negative, 50% of the time you focus on the positive. Maybe your partner will help to even that out a little bit. But, weeks go by, months go by, years go by, and if you continue to focus on the negatives and focus on the negative outcomes, all you're going to see is negativity, and eventually the worst, like the negativity will manifest, okay? It immediately manifests as negative feelings and stress, and you may not realize it, but you're actually removing possibilities from your experience. Eventually, you and that partner will break up. Um, and there's no real it's not about reality, it's about how you view reality. It's about what you want to create in reality, because the past has already happened and there's nothing you can do to bring it back. The future has not even happened yet. You have no fucking clue what can happen in the future. If you notice, the world can constantly surprise you. There's always unpredictable things happening if you keep your eyes open. And the right now is like what I'm doing right now is created from things I've done in the past. Like everything you have right now, like I have a wine bottle sitting up on top of my bookshelf. I went to HEB with my ex-girlfriend and bought wine like a couple of years ago, and we never threw it away. You created that in the past, okay? And now it's created your current reality. And so what you do right now is going to create the future, okay? And so what you focus on, like how you feel, like if you feel happy, if you feel enthusiastic, if you're focusing on abundance, you will attract more of that in the future. But the thing is, you don't know yet. You don't know if good things or bad things are going to happen. Because you create them, okay? You don't like things aren't it's not about fate. The future's not already created, okay? The future is something that you are creating from from here, you're creating that. You're attracting it like a magnet almost. Um it's about abundance, Look at people like Conor McGregor. He talks a lot about the law of attraction and always has. And it's a very common method used in sports psychology: positive expectation, visualization, trying to feel as if you've already won. And it's a proven method of increasing sports performance. Conor McGregor and many other people, Arnold Schwarzenegger's talked about it. Some of the most successful people in the world have talked about using the law of attraction because it works. Um, and Conor McGregor's talked about it, and you can watch his documentary called Notorious on Netflix, where he literally visualized his knockout against Jose Aldo, and he was practicing the combination that he used to win that fight in 12 seconds, literally 15 minutes before he went on that match. So he was practicing his future. He was visualizing his future, and he became a master at creating his future. He had a habit. They call him Mystic Mac, because he had a habit of predicting his fight outcomes, and it was scary because he said first round knockout. He's gonna, Chad Mendes is gonna be, heaving and gasping for air against the cage with his little belly, and he was visualizing it, smelling it, describing every aspect of that moment in the press conference, like months before, weeks before it happened. And that's a great example of how the law of attraction works. Is you see something as real, you see it as truth, and you experience it in your mind long before it happens. And sports psychologists constantly say the mind can't tell whether what you're thinking about is reality or is fantasy. And Conor McGregor, before he even got in the UFC, when he was in the amateurs, he said, "You will see me in the UFC. I will be world champion one day. I will be world champion. I'm already world champion. I've already done it in my head. The championship's already mine." And he was affirming it constantly. And everything he was affirming turned out to be true until he stopped using the law of attraction, it seems. And then look what happened to him, right? But we do this all the time with negative affirmations. People, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but people always, they predict negative things happening to them long before it does. And almost always, these things that we tell ourselves are going to happen tends to happen. You talk things into existence. And so Um, like I was saying, the mind cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And it's so crazy that, for example, we could fantasize about a particular person we think is attractive, and we can actually cause an orgasm based on our fantasies. That's powerful. Another thing is typically people with panic disorder. I had disorder for a long time. I was constantly imagining, the panic attack happening, and it started to create the panic attack. And whenever I started to assume that I was like, oh shit, I'm going to have a panic attack. I feel the symptoms coming along. And it was actually the fear of the panic attack that created it in the first place. Thinking about the panic attack, imagining the panic attack and how it feels, and then expecting the panic attack to come along created the panic attack. And the worst part about it is resisting it, trying to stop it. What you resist persists. And on came the panic attack every time until I broke the cycle and did the opposite. Instead of saying I don't want the panic attack, I started to say I want the panic attack. And the biggest thing here is that I wasn't visualizing panic free. I was actually like, I wasn't visualizing panic attack at all. I was just like, if I felt symptoms coming along, I was like, oh great, let's do this. I was visualizing myself using breathing techniques and stuff, but I never got to use those breathing techniques. I never really got to, other symptoms of panic disorder, I use breathing techniques, but in the middle of a panic attack, you can't just use breathing techniques. You've got to let go of resistance and accept the panic and desire the panic, and the panic goes away instantly. And so the key here is letting go of resistance. Like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, okay, maybe this adventure I'm about to go on is going to be stressful and scary and all this stuff, but it's okay. Let's see what it brings us. Let's see what life brings us. Let's see what goes on here, and that type of attitude of like, it's all good, let's see where it goes, can create positive things. But it's based on the feeling of ease. It's based on the feeling of it's okay. I have everything I need right now. Abundance, right? If you're constantly thinking about the lottery, constantly obsessing about money, that's stress, that's obsession. And that's just going to create more. So that's not using the law of attraction. That is using the law of attraction, but it's using it in a negative way. It's going to bring you more lack, more obsessiveness. And so that's where a lot of people go wrong with the law of attraction, is that they mistakenly assume it's, I'm thinking about money all the time, but I don't get it. I'm thinking about what I want. What they mean by think about what you want, not what you don't want, is I want to feel at peace. I want to feel, I want to be financially secure. I want to have a great life. I want to, live life to the fullest. I want to have great relationships. And when you start to think positive thoughts, when you start to think thoughts that make you feel good, okay? When you start to actually focus, like align your entire body with things you desire, like the thing is, you say, I want money, but actually what you want is to feel at ease. Because if you're financially secure, how's that going to make you feel? At ease. It's going to make you feel like everything's taken care of. And so you want to focus on the feeling that you want, not on like the car that I want and all this stuff. Because if that brings resistance, if that makes you feel bad, if that makes you feel anxious, it's the feeling that you're attracting. So law of attraction is about feelings. It's not about thoughts. It's about feeling the feelings you would feel if you actually achieved what you wanted. And if you look at most people in society, like most people that are attracting negative things, typically they're feeling negative things. They're feeling negative emotions, typically. Not always, but most of the time. Or another thing is they believe that bad things might happen to them, or they believe bad things will happen to them. Their expectations is negative, things of that nature. And so you want to align your thoughts, words, and actions with optimism. You want to put yourself in good feeling emotions as much as you can, and avoiding self-destructive behaviors, okay? This law does not apply to things like drugs, like meth and stupid shit like that. It doesn't apply to alcohol, okay? And so maybe it's not a law like gravity in that way, but the way that I'm describing it works in everything except for those types of abnormal pleasures people have. But I would say that that's because those are attachments of destructive kinds. If you're attached to alcohol, right? It creates resistance. It creates the drunkenness and things. We'll just call like that. That's an exception to the rule, okay? So I'm not claiming that the law of attraction is like the law of gravity and stuff. What I'm talking about here is a practical thing that seems to magically attract things in your life, and I don't know how the fuck, like, I can explain the psychology behind it. Your reticular activating system in your brain's filter, confirmation bias, self-fulfilling prophecies, and obviously giving good energy will attract good energy in social situations, in business. If you act like you're going to get something, typically the world, people, places, and things will treat you like you have that. There's solid scientific psychology type explanations for why these things happen, but it seems like magic, and I think that it's beneficial to see it as magic because it just, like, when you start to actually emphasize the law of attraction, it works like magic, and it works both ways. Like, whether you believe in it or not, if you're thinking negative things, you'll attract negative things. If you like, it's gonna happen whether you believe it or not. It's a law of psychology. It's a law of it happens. But again, as far as like it being like gravity and shit like that, I can't say that because there are some holes to poke in that theory of it as like a law of the universe, which I like to say that it is. But things like alcohol makes people feel good. I think I don't really feel good on alcohol. I feel horrible. Meth. People do it because I guess it makes them feel good, but they do. These things do trap people. Eating ice cream makes people feel. Well, it makes me feel like shit. It makes me feel sick. These are addictive substances, really. I don't know how to explain all that crap though, because a lot of people get pleasure out of those, and so I don't know if it attracts more pleasure. I say doing meth attracts more meth. Doing addictive things attract more addiction. That's what I'd say. um, you know, giving love to people seems to attract more love, but it depends on where that love's coming from. If you're trying to give people love and you're expecting them to give you love back, for one, you're attached to the outcome. Number two, like it's coming from the space of like expecting. So when you expect other people to give you love back, it's desperity, or you're gonna become more desperate. Whatever the fuck, guys. I hope this has helped. Feel free to like contest me down in the comments and poke holes in my argument, because the law of attraction is something that I used to believe in strongly and I would emphasize in my life, but I stopped because I started to get really involved in science and started to study science a lot, and I felt like the law of attraction and astrology as well were not compatible with science, and so it just didn't feel congruent, didn't feel in alignment with my new venture, and so I disconnected myself from law of attraction, astrology, and shit like that for a long time. But I noticed, for one, I don't know about astrology, but the law of attraction actually is backed up by a lot of science, okay, on many different forms, including the placebo, which is one. And I talked about other forms of science that's used in sports psychology and things like that. There's a whole form of psychology called positive psychology that emphasizes principles very similar to law of attraction as well. There's a lot of books written by psychologists about similar principles, about how happiness attracts more happiness. But yeah, feel free to like argue with me in the comments. Tell me, why I'm wrong. Tell me all that shit because, yeah, I mean, it'll help me to understand my own thoughts, especially about some of these things, some of the holes, because I'm pretty skeptical myself. Like, I can see the law of attraction works, but I can't explain. Like, it works like magic, but I can't explain some of the flaws and the logic behind it. Like, oh, if feeling good makes you attract good things, how come when I drink alcohol I attract, jail? Anyway, leave your questions, comments down below, argue with me, and I'll talk to you on the next video.